What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 7, Day 6 is coming at you live as usual. Alright, so we're going to take it back to 1973 with a film directed by Jose Ramon Lorenz. He is mostly known for directing vampires. Very, very classic film. He also did Symptoms, 1970. He did Whirlpool. Later on in the 80s, he did Rest in Pieces, Deadly Manor, Edge of the Axe. Those are completely kind of different, type of Lorenz films. And so on and so on. He did Stigma, Black Candles. He's got a lot of films under his belt that are kind of known to, to the horror fan and stuff like that. But this one right here is a film I'd actually never seen before. I've had it in the collection for some time. And I thought, why not do it for the 31 Days of Horror? And of course, from 1973, and it's called The House That Vanished, aka Scream or Die, which is the original title. They changed it for, I think, the American release of it or something like that. I think that's what they did. Yeah, this is from Dark Force Entertainment. This is a double feature, one of the Grindhouse features. We'll get into that more later. So, yeah. So getting into the synopsis of this one, basically this one follows our main character, Valerie. She's a model. She has this criminal boyfriend. Anyways, they finish a photo shoot one night, and he's decided that he wants to go and rob this house, this big mansion or whatever. Anyways, they get to this mansion, and she's kind of apprehensive of it. She doesn't really want to do this stuff. But anyways, they get to this mansion, and, they're kind of doing their thing, and they hear voices. So they go and hide in the closet. And they see this woman, she's talking and she's stripping, and all of a sudden she gets murdered. The killer catches an eye that they're in the house. She runs out of there. Ultimately ends up getting away, but her boyfriend doesn't show back up at home and stuff like that. So she gets home by the morning time, and she's just kind of like, okay, what the hell just happened kind of thing. She talks to her friends. They inform her that, she shouldn't go to the police because they were there to rob the house and stuff like that. Paranoia starts to kick in when she realizes the killer possibly might know where she lives. And so, yeah, that's basically the plot of the film. I'll stop it right there. So my thoughts on this movie starts out really, really damn good. Like, it's very atmospheric. I love the opening, 15 minutes in this movie. When they go to this mansion, it's very atmospheric. It's got a really cool killing. It's very reminiscent of a giallo, essentially. We don't get to see the killer's face. It's kind of almost like a POV in a sense, and the killer's wearing black gloves. It's got all those elements of giallo films, which is very cool. The movie kind of changes tones a little bit when she gets home in the morning and realizes that, her boyfriend hasn't shown up and stuff like that. She kind of decides to go back to her normal life. She doesn't really know what else to do. She has a roommate that's a model also, and things kind of go from there. She has these interactions with her friends. Her male friend introduces her to one of his friends who sells masks and things like that. And we get a lot of this interaction through the middle of the film. Something happens in the middle of the film with her roommate, and she's got this creepy, kind of neighbor downstairs. All these kind of these elements of film that, are very obvious, right? But the middle of the film actually does kind of slow down quite a bit. It does pick up, in the third act and stuff like that. But the thing is with this release is, so I'm watching the film and I'm noticing a little bit of cuts here and there. And I'm like, okay, the editing in this film isn't really the greatest. And then there's a major scene that happens in the film. Her roommate actually gets murdered in this film. But it goes from her being in her apartment to the police station. And she's like, yeah, she's being interviewed by the police. And, the cop's trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm like, okay, did I just fucking miss something? So I continue to watch the film. I notice a few more little cuts here and there and stuff like that. So once the film ended, I did some research on this release. And sure as shit, this release from Dark Force Entertainment, they used the rated R theatrical American cut for this drive-in double feature, which is cut by 9 minutes. And it makes a big difference because I read what the cuts were and stuff. There's a whole scene missing in this movie, which is the scene with the roommate who gets murdered by the killer. She gets raped and murdered, and also they cut the scene where they discover the body too and stuff like that. There's a scene between her friend's friend and his auntie. There's an incestuous sex scene. They do show some of it, but that's chopped up in this. There's some nudity and other things that are kind of cut from the film and stuff like too, but totaling like 8 or 9 minutes of cuts. And it made a big deal because I'm thinking to myself going, if all that stuff had been in here, it would have made, you know, the middle part of the movie a little bit more interesting, because we get the beginning and we get the end, but there's some chops in the middle. And I'm like, fuck. So apparently Dark Force said that they were going to stop selling these because there's backlash from the fans and all that type of stuff. And there was even pictures of them online, like stepping on the cases and stuff, but they continue to sell them. And then I think they're sold out. I think they may have actually pulled the title now. But this one is kind of lost in VHS obscurity. I know there's some bootlegs out there that are VHS rips of the uncut version and stuff like that that I looked into. And I mean, honestly, if I hadn't known that this was a cut version, I probably never would have watched it in the first place, because I hate watching cut versions. But I mean, I get the gist of it. I wish I had seen that murder scene with the roommate and stuff, because you're watching the film, it's so damn jarring. It's so fucking jarring when you're watching it. You're just all of a sudden, she's at the police station. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh man, this shit's got to be cut to shit. So that was kind of disappointing, because I think when you watch this version, the rated R cut, there's just not a lot happening in the middle of the film, and all the good stuff is technically kind of cut out of the film. I know a lot of the sleaziness, a lot of the boobs and stuff like that. We do actually get to see our main character, Valerie, her name is Andrea Allen. She actually eventually ended up posing in Penthouse and Playboy. But I had to look her up because she was so damn beautiful in this movie. I'm like, who is this girl? She was actually an old Dracula. Vinegar Syndrome put out that Blu-ray last year. It's like a comedic Dracula film. It's ridiculous. I don't remember her from the film, and I even watched it, but yeah, so beautiful. If there's one reason to watch the cut version of this, is just to watch her prance around in the film, and she's really, really beautiful. But overall, the movie, the version that I watched is a little bit dull. It's a little bit dull. It starts good and it kind of ends decently. I will say the killer is pretty obvious in the movie who it is, even watching a cut version, I will say. But I like the elements. It's very atmospheric. It does have interesting characters. It's got interesting things that are going on. But I tell you, man, when you watch cut movies, sometimes it's just completely like, whoa, man, like I can imagine what the other version is like. It's got to be a little bit more exciting, because you have those moments in the film that aren't present here that really would have added to the middle of the kind of snooze fest a little bit. Like the characters are interesting, but it's just not a lot that's happening. You got, that obvious cliche stuff with the neighbor that moves in downstairs that's creepy and stuff, and it's, red herrings, right? Like, it's obviously this guy. He's creepy, and because he has pigeons in his apartment and stuff. Like, give me a break. But yeah, it's kind of a shame that this wasn't put out in uncut version, and apparently there is no other uncut Blu-ray release of it. So very frustrating, very frustrating. And I really like these drive-in classics. And that was part of the thing, too, while I was watching it. The transfer was what I read was actually the best it's ever looked. It's still very scratchy, kind of looks like Grindhouse and stuff, but it's clear, the audio is good and stuff like that. You can really make out what's going on and stuff like that. But it's just such a shame this is cut, because like I said, that murder scene would have made the movie, it would have elevated it quite a bit. It's not a horrible movie by any means. It's just hard to rate this knowing that I just watched a very, very chopped cut of the film. But I'm still going to give it a solid 6 out of 10. I know it would definitely go up if I see the other cut. Like I said, there's a lot of good stuff here. There's a lot of really good cinematography. Jose Ramon Lorenz has done a lot of good work in his career. He's kind of an underrated director, to be honest. He's done some really damn good stuff, like Symptoms and Vampires and Whirlpool. These movies are really good. This falls in the line here. The narrative's not overly the greatest. Like I said, it's a little bit obvious who the killer is, because there's not really a lot of people that are coming and going out of this film, and it kind of has to be who you think it is. But just, another movie with incest in it. I don't know what's with incest lately in these fucking movies I've been watching. It's crazy. But it kind of comes out of left field, too. It's just so bizarre how it comes about and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, disappointing release for a movie that's probably better than this cut version. So, but yeah. Anyways, The House That Vanished, The House That Vanished, and that retitle does play into the narrative a little bit, because there is a point in the film where, she calls up her friends and they go and hunt for this place because she's not entirely sure where it is. And so they go to this junkyard and they find the car that they came in. It was all demolished and stuff like that, but they can't find the house. So hence The House That Vanished. But Scream or Die, I guess that works too. Whatever. But yeah, 6 out of 10. Just very, very disappointing release, to say the least. I've actually seen the other movie on here, the Eerie Midnight Horror Show. I haven't watched it on this Blu-ray. I actually have a DVD. Well, I had a DVD copy of it. Don't really remember the movie, so I don't know. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it here for day 6 on the 31 Days of Horror. And I'll be back tomorrow with probably something newer. So I'll check you guys then. Hope you guys are enjoying the 31 days. And as usual, doozy!